This is Darren from Danger Bad Agreements. So a little background. In December of 2019, the COVID virus started getting into people. It started in Wuhan in China, in Hubei province, and it spread from there. From the Wuhan area, it became a pandemic. Before then, though, there was probably in the months of January and into February, large amounts of PPE, that's personal protective equipment that is, was shipped from places like Canada, America, Europe to China. China was basically hoarding through both government policy and through calls to many of their overseas friends and family to supply PPE. In most normal times, if this was happening, this would be not a big deal. But when this virus came over into places like Italy and places like Iran and all of the other various countries, it became a problem because all of a sudden PPE was needed very, 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 very much by our first responders, our healthcare workers. PPE was needed for police, it was needed for paramedics, it was needed for doctors, nurses. And the problem is that all the PPE that was available was effectively either in China or scarce in the Western markets. It was so hard to find that the prices for, say, like a box of N95 filters that would normally be like maybe at most $9.95 American or $9.95 Canadian, all of a sudden was selling for $40 for a box of 10. There were stores that were now selling, for instance, face shields for $20, $30 when you could buy them just like 2-3 months ago off of, say, Amazon for $3.99. So all of a sudden, the supply of PPE became scarce. And of course, when you have a demand product that's scarce, to get it, the prices go up. The problem is that then all these companies, of course, also were shut down because of lockdown orders. So you had this double whammy, scarcity of supply and scarcity of manufacturing. All of a sudden, companies like 3M were being ordered not to ship goods to, say, like Canada, or China was not sending all of the PPE to places like Thailand, so supply was constricted. But now comes the problem. China is finally getting over their hump, so supplies, you would think, should start becoming more available. The problem is, the manufacturers, for instance, in China, can't get enough of the base supplies, sort of like the fabric that goes into it is kind of like a polysynthetic. It's a plastic, specially made fiber. Well, to produce this, you need a certain type of chemical process and a certain type of manufacturing process. And a lot of these companies were at just mass producing upwards of billions of masks a month. But the problem now becomes the base supply, the actual polymer, the ethanol polymer that comes to make the fabric that then goes in to make the masks, was also coming under constraints. So wherever you're looking at, the actual companies from China that are making the product now are finding that it is absolutely super expensive to produce. So up goes the cost. There's that problem. The other problem is that a lot of the material that's being made, all of a sudden these companies that are now out of business, I'm not going to blame businessmen for seeing an opportunity, but there's a problem. The products that they ended up starting to make were not of the sufficient quality that we need in our healthcare sector. They're not quality enough for what you would need to protect yourself. A lot of the people that were getting, say, surgical face masks in Italy, they just open it up and they just rip apart. They would get surgical gowns and literally they just put one arm through and the whole thing will just shred. And China was busy sending all of this type of material to places like Italy as donations and goodwill. But the problem is that the material was just absolute crap. Not only are a lot of the products that have been sent out not conform to, say, Canadian, American, Italian, or EU standards, but they are producing stuff as fast as they can, as cheap as they can, to get a buck. So this goes from everything from ventilators, because recently in the UK there was a warning from the Medical Association in the United Kingdom that if they used the ventilators that were supplied by China, it would probably kill the people that they're trying to save. In Italy, there was a shipment of donated goods from China that they all were going, yay, look at us. We're producing this great medical soft power, like we are donating to you this really great gear. The nurses were famously trying it on, and it was just absolute garbage. This has exposed some serious problems across the world. Now people are starting to realize that there is no government control from China to promote proper, safe PPE for medical care workers. There is faulty products that are coming out that don't meet the standards of the companies and of the jurisdictions that need them, such as Canada, America, EU. Globally, the issues that this raises are beyond belief. One, we're seeing the limits, for instance, and as much as I support personally free trade and I support free markets, we're starting to finally see how when certain national interests, such as PPE, such as medical equipment, are shipped overseas, we're starting to realize that, whereas, say, like in the past, like 4 months ago, if I got a box of N95 filters and they were crap, I could just return them, say, to the supplier and get an actual proper box. Nowadays, we would all need these PPE, like these air filters and these face masks more than ever. And yet, when all of a sudden we have stuff that is absolute crap, we are exposing ourselves, and all of us, both our doctors, our nurses, and everybody, to just, unfortunately, just too many unnecessary risks. So what are the solutions that are probably going to come from this? Well, one, China has started to implement that only state authorized sellers, and that's state authorized producers, to produce the PPE. So China is on their end trying to kind of catch up, if you will, to try to make up for the mistakes that have been made. That's one good thing. So quality control on the Chinese side has been brought in. So only licensed and authorized dealers are now producing this material for, say, Canada, for America, and for the EU. Canada, America, and many of the governments are now themselves only dealing with trusted sources. So they know that the product that they're getting, even though it might cost more, is coming from a legitimate and actual good source. That's another side. So quality control has been brought back, but the other side of it too is we're now seeing a lot of the homegrown manufacturing, say like Bauer. They're a sports production company. So all of a sudden, because they're now down and there's no sports being played, they've got production facilities that can produce, say, face shields. So Bauer has now been producing from many of their plants while they're down and they're not producing face shields for, say, hockey players. They've co-opted their production line to produce medically grade, safe face shields that are now being produced here in Canada or here in the US or here in Europe. Another thing that's happening is, for instance, when President Trump ordered that no 3M products come to Canada, well, here's something that kind of stopped that in its tracks. Well, one, 3M basically said, well, they're our customers and we will supply them. But the other side is, in British Columbia, in Crofton, there is a pulp and paper mill. 100% of 3M's paper milled product that they use in the N95 mask come from Crofton. The Crofton mill, under Canada's laws, could be co-opted to only supply Canadian producers. And quite frankly, that would screw America over in a way that, well, President Trump just wasn't expecting. So again, what you're literally seeing in the future, we're going to probably see home manufacture come back, because that way the quality control and the national supply, the national interest, will be taken care of, say, in Canada, in America, in the EU. And the other side of it too is there'll be more quality controls, more, well, basically production controls put in place in the local market. And unfortunately, this means that a lot of the suppliers that opted out to send and ship the manufacture and supply from overseas are likely going to experience some serious negative feedbacks. We could see 3M losing market share. We could see new companies that didn't have a chance before will now be able to sell, say, made in the US, made in the EU, made in Canada, as a selling point to just say, hey look, this is what it was like before, but at least with us, you know that we're producing you good quality product. And so, either way, I hope that you've understood some more about some of the issues that have happened. And rather than continue on this rant, I'm sure I got my point across. Watching this, hey, why don't you join with the Danger by Degrees crowd? Be one of the cool kids. Like this, recommend it, share this, spread this around. Make it viral like Corona, but not, remember, Danger by Degrees is not as unhelpful and not as unhealthy as Corona. Corona, bad. Danger by Degrees, good. Remember, share the love, and thank you for watching Danger by Degrees.